Hi guys, welcome to Signal Path. My name's John, and today we're talking about the Great Eastern Effect. Overdrive is really just beautifully appointed, beautifully designed overdrive pedal with kind of a few special tone shaping options, featuring kind of 3 knobs and this selector switch, which for me personally might be the most satisfying piece about using this. It's an incredible tactile experience, but under the hood there are some incredibly ingenious tone shaping options that for such a simple control scheme you don't find with many overdrive pedals. And so figured it was a good way to kick off talking on the channel. So thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to go through some sound samples now. But yeah, let me know what you think, and let's get into it. I'm on the middle position pickup. Here's the designer drive. One of my favorite uses for the width control is that ability to really dial in the bandwidth you're looking for. So between the edge and the width controls, I'm just really hearing a beautiful preamp that's really an excellent way to set up great ambient tones. So with a little bit of extra reverb and delay, with a Telecaster, it can be kind of hard to get those really beautiful hollow mids where it's got enough weight on the bottom end but enough clarity and punch on the top end to really be something that creates a great chordal layer. And so being able to let the bandwidth wide open is really just a beautiful approach. At the same time, for stuff like this, where you want something that's pretty and kind of at the top, you're able to thin it out as much as you want to, and kind of one of my favorite things when I was building sort of the intro track was my ability to sort of write a part and then just slot in exactly the width that I needed. I think every guitar has a favorite width setting. It's definitely something where, depending on where you set things, you're going to get a very different inflection from your tone overall. I find that on the humbuckers, some of the thinning settings were a little bit more appropriate just to kind of bring out some of the top end that is maybe not always so apparent. At the same time, maybe thin out a little bit of the mud in the pickups. At the same time, for things like Telecasters and Strats, the fat's going to be your best friend, and it really helps kind of bring out the character of the Telecaster that maybe doesn't always see the forefront with other kind of overdrives, especially ones that have an impact of really narrowing in and kind of focusing the sounds solely on the mids. So yeah, let's take a little bit of a closer look at the width control here. So we're about halfway up on gain. Let's listen to the fattest setting. as you can hear, as we thin out using the width control, the drive setting, even though we haven't changed it, the overall kind of the feeling of the clean sound that we're getting changes pretty dramatically. Back to the fattest setting here, there's a lot more content. It's a broader frequency band that we're letting through, and so because of that, there's a little bit more content for the drive to catch on to and ultimately distort. And so that is kind of a difference here, and it's something that's kind of key to note when you're using this drive, that the gain is really just one part of the picture in terms of the dynamics that you're setting, and it's incredibly unique to me to have a tone control in a sense be so impacting of the overall drive character of the pedal. So for things like Telecasters, I found that somewhere in the middle is kind of the sweet spot, and that as one might expect, is going to be the case for most guitars. You're going to ride the extremes relatively marginally less often than where you might kind of find things in the middle. But let's take a look at kind of the full gain range that this offers with single coil. So on kind of middle tone, middle width here, that's kind of like the halfway setting. As you begin to push, it definitely starts to get, it's a fuzz by no means, but it does kind of start to cook, and it gets very, hairy, very, very kind of crackly and bright at the top end in a way that for like single note rhythm stuff, and even power chords definitely has, a pretty compelling character to it. For something that has incredible clean tones, to be able to get to that kind of gain range makes it a great back pocket EQ, but also something that can push other drives. It's something that pushes amps really, really well. But definitely, like, the more you open it up, something that absolutely has the power to make a pretty smash and rock track. And then with that tightness control, you kind of have the ability to sort of say, hey, are we, even on those lower strings and on the thinner settings, you can sort of choose between like the pick transient or, on the fattest settings, you can kind of have that sort of blown out drive sound that reminds me of some of the favorite tones that I would get out of the third channel of the Hot Rod Deluxe when I was kind of first learning guitar. Definitely something that's nostalgic for me. But yeah, that's overall kind of the spectrum of tones that you can find. This is kind of first with the Telecaster. Definitely some beautiful sounds to be found. I would say that unsurprisingly, I am partial to the lighter end of the spectrum. I love the way that this pedal supports clean tones. And with the Telecaster, where I can often struggle to find kind of weight and gravitas for some of the clean tones that I want, this control definitely gives me a way to round things out and find balance all the way through the frequency spectrum. It adds a little bit of weight, but not in a way that always feels additive. It almost feels like it's just rebalancing in kind of equally subtractive and additive ways to add up to. something that feels warm but not kind of rolled off. And I think they've done an incredible job at designing this edge control to never leave you without the top end that you kind of want to hear. It's definitely something that's been beautifully curated, beautifully designed in a way that is musical. It's designed to be an instrument in itself in a way that I don't always find tone controls to be.